When two distinct streams of organizational data flow into the same unmanaged hardware, they inevitably collide. This creates an immediate threat of corporate data leakage. Traditional security relies on establishing a hardened physical boundary. Managing multiple Microsoft Intune accounts on a single device breaks that perimeter security model entirely. Full mobile device management assumes the organization owns the hardware. Mobile Device Management, or MDM, is a security protocol that gives IT administrators comprehensive control over a physical device. This strict requirement fails in bring-your-own-device environments, where users must access a primary corporate account alongside separate freelance or consulting credentials. This diagram illustrates a schematic of a mobile device handling multiple identities. If you drop two distinct Entra ID tokens into a single unmanaged operating system, the data naturally bleeds across the local environment. Entra ID is Microsoft's cloud-based identity and access management service. The host operating system does not natively distinguish the rules governing those two tokens. The device's shared clipboard and local storage folders become direct pathways for sensitive corporate information to transfer into unmanaged applications. To secure a multi-account environment, IT administrators have to stop treating the physical device as the primary security boundary. The necessary architecture relies on three distinct pillars. The first is multi-identity application sandboxing, using Intune's app protection policies to isolate data strictly at the software layer. The second pillar requires dynamic conditional access. This system gates entry to the network based on login context, device compliance, and real-time user risk, rather than simply checking hardware ownership. The third pillar enforces strict administrative session isolation. This ensures that IT managers overseeing multiple tenants do not cross-contaminate policies between different organizations. By shifting the focus of control from physical hardware to user identity, organizations guarantee data integrity without violating user privacy on shared or personal devices. The baseline architecture for any multi-account scenario on personal hardware is Mobile Application Management without enrollment. Mobile Application Management without enrollment, or MAMW, is a framework that controls corporate data within specific applications without requiring administrative control over the host device. Microsoft applications like Outlook, Teams, and Edge are engineered with built-in multi-identity support. A user can maintain an active personal Microsoft account and a managed corporate account within the exact same application interface. This wireframe displays the Microsoft Outlook interface divided by identity. Intune applies app protection policies dynamically, strictly enforcing security rules only on the session using the managed corporate identity, represented here as Account A. If an employee attempts to copy sensitive text from their managed corporate email account and paste it into a personal text message, the app protection policy intervenes. It recognizes the boundary between the managed identity and the unmanaged destination, blocking the transfer entirely. Administrators must configure specific data protection settings to execute this block. First, they disable the Save As function to prevent users from moving files into personal cloud storage or local directories. Next, they restrict cut, copy, and paste commands so that corporate data can only travel to other fully managed applications. Finally, the policy must mandate encryption for all organizational data at rest. This requirement is enforced regardless of the host device's native encryption state. These combined settings build a cryptographic, policy-driven vault inside an otherwise completely unmanaged device. This solves the data leakage risk inherent to personal hardware. App-level controls address personal hardware, but different physical environments require different Intune enrollment architectures. Organizations escalate to full corporate device enrollment only when compliance standards dictate absolute hardware control, like requiring remote wipe capabilities or pushing mandatory VPN profiles. This blueprint illustrates three enrollment strategies: MAM only for personal devices, full MDM for corporate hardware, and shared device mode. Shared device mode handles rapid multi-user turnover, designed specifically for frontline workers who cycle through the same physical hardware across different shifts. Multiple users utilize single sign-on across all managed apps by routing their credentials through the Microsoft Authenticator app. The defining security mechanism triggers the exact moment a worker ends their shift and logs out. This automatic data clearance physically wipes the local cache. It prevents any persistent personal or corporate data from bleeding into the next user's session. While the physical tablet remains under continuous Intune management, the active user session acts as a temporary, highly volatile container. All three of these device states require conditional access policies, like mandating multi-factor authentication or checking geographic location, to verify the identity before granting access. Multi-factor authentication is a security process that requires users to provide 2 or more verification factors to gain access to a resource. Applying the correct management blueprint to the corresponding multi-user reality prevents security overreach on personal hardware and stops data leakage on shared terminals. Securing the endpoint is irrelevant if the administrator configuring the Intune policies is compromised by their own overlapping identities. Managed service providers face a complex multi-tenant administration challenge, as a single IT professional must oversee dozens of distinct Microsoft 365 tenants simultaneously. A managed service provider, or MSP, is an outsourced third-party company that assumes the responsibility of operating and maintaining a customer's IT infrastructure. The core technical failure point is the web browser. Standard browsers cache Azure AD tokens across active tabs, causing credential cross-contamination when switching between client environments. This represents an IT admin console. As the administrator executes commands in Tenant A, an invisible layer of cached token data builds up. When switching tabs to Tenant B, this cached residue from the previous session causes a collision, resulting in authentication errors. Microsoft 365 Lighthouse offers the first architectural solution to this. It provides a unified dashboard that allows administrators to view compliance data across multiple tenants without switching active sessions. Azure Lighthouse provides the second solution, allowing APIs to execute cross-tenant commands cleanly from a home tenant. An API, or Application Programming Interface, is a set of rules that allows different software systems to communicate directly with one another. Despite these API-level solutions, tasks requiring direct portal access still expose the administrator to token caching. This demands structural isolation at the local browser level. Total administrative isolation requires separate administrative workflows to operate simultaneously without ever making contact. Dedicated browser sandboxing tools enforce this strict session separation. By isolating each tab, cached credentials never interfere with accurate audit logging. For a managed service provider, strict administrative session hygiene serves the exact same function as app protection policies on a mobile device. It isolates the identity to protect the data. Stepping back, we can view the finalized multi-account Intune architecture from the endpoint directly up to the admin console. This vertical macro architecture map details the entire ecosystem. At the bottom layer, endpoints operate under MAM or shared device mode. In the middle layer, conditional access gates control the traffic. At the top layer, isolated admin consoles execute secure commands. These layers interact dynamically. The system constantly verifies identity and context at every single boundary point in the chain. Multi-account management requires a holistic zero-trust architecture. Zero-trust architecture is a security framework that strictly requires all users and devices to be continuously authenticated and authorized before accessing any data. When users load multiple managed accounts onto one device, organizations will inevitably push conflicting configuration policies to the same hardware. Intune resolves these conflicts using a strict logic rule. The system defaults to the most restrictive policy applied to that identity. Security parameters override user convenience. If an account is not recognized as managed, administrators should initiate troubleshooting by verifying the user's Intune license and checking their Azure AD group memberships. Audit your BYOD workflows to ensure your app protection policies are correctly targeting specific user groups rather than broad device categories. Managed service providers must enforce active mitigation of administrative token caching. Implement structured browser isolation protocols across all management workflows. True multi-account security is achieved only when you stop managing the physical hardware and build strict cryptographic boundaries around the identity itself.